Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Everything is going okay with you guys and your family, and you're staying healthy and safe. And I hope your school work is going okay. Hope your classes are going okay, and you guys are managing all this craziness. I just wanted to check in with you guys and sort of see where we're at. A couple things I want to talk about. So far, the work has been really good. People have been, most people are logging in and checking, what's happening on Google Classroom, which is good. Still a few people I haven't seen, but I'll be getting in touch with them hopefully soon. But overall, the work has been good. I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing. Let's take a quick look at what I'm talking about. So, I've been obviously posting stuff here on the site, or on Google Classroom and on the site as well. And then people have been doing like a good job. I'm not going to post everything I saw, but there were I thought some really good examples of some of the activities, which is great. Nice to see you guys putting in the effort. So I got a couple here just as examples. And there were a ton of really well done ones. I just grabbed two off the top of my head here. So nicely done. And then the greeting card thing I thought was really well done too. You guys jumped right on top of that, which is great. One of the things I think that made it easier, for some people was if you decided or if you found a card that had like a unique feature. So for example, some of the characters here, the O doesn't connect. It's got a gap there. That made it really easy to go, oh yeah, this is the right font. I know a couple people when they kind of got down to the end with this um, Identifont tool were like, yeah, I think this is it. This looks right, I think. I'm not sure. And that often comes down to the typeface that you've chosen. Like if your font that you've chosen is like a really maybe traditional or kind of generic even typeface, if it doesn't have anything that's really standout-ish, it's hard to pinpoint. So for example, in this here, like this treatment of the A, I'm not sure if you guys recognize this, but this it's very well known. If I go to here, you'll recognize it hopefully right away from this, right? So that is obviously from Stranger Things, and that typeface is, if you look at the A there, it's actually in the actual um, logo. Stranger Things. They actually made some. I saw an interesting article on this on on sort of the treatment. They did make a couple of changes to the font, but just like how the letters aligned. But anyways, that is that font right there. So you'll probably start to see and recognize a bunch of these fonts from kind of all over the place. All right, anyways, good work. I was pretty happy with what I saw. Just one of the things I just wanted to mention was, if you did pick one that was unique in some way, it's going to make it easier, right? And so if I look here, that O is a good example. And there were a lot of characters, that had sort of unique treatments. I thought this was interesting. This one here is, uh, it's correct in that this is Bodani. And the way I know that it's Bodani is if you look at the C, okay, that treatment of that C there, and if you look here at the C, that's very similar. I think though that this is a hand-drawn version. So somebody, the designer of this card, actually just looked at this font and used that as their sort of as their inspiration, I suppose, for this, which I think they hand wrote. So that's kind of neat. Um, it might be a font. I'm kind of looking at now and looking at how similar these E's all are. So this may actually be a real font that was designed based on um, Bodani. Okay. Notice also though that these two E's are a little different. So the type designer has made a second E in case there are two characters that are close together to make it look a little less, um, um, similar. Anyways, just some things I noted. Another thing I wanted to mention is that this is the name of the designer of the font, right? So the type designer. This is not the person who necessarily designed the greeting card. The greeting card was probably designed a year ago or 2 years ago, whereas these typefaces, some of them are like 50, 60, 70 years old, right? So keep in mind that this designer is not necessarily uh, related at all to this card. They design the font, people buy the font, and then use them for whatever they're going to use them for. Okay? All right. Anyways, that said, a couple things to mention, a couple terms I want to mention to you guys. The first one is glyph. A glyph, and I will show you, so each of these characters, each of these letters is called a glyph. And a glyph can be A, B, C, D. It can be uppercase, lowercase, all the letters. Any of the numbers are glyphs, and any character that is related to the font. So if I'm typing out a poster, and my poster has to have an exclamation mark, I want my characters, my pound sign, my dollar sign, my question mark, whatever, to match the font that I'm using. These are all called glyphs, okay? Anything that you would see related to a font set, that would be, well, I don't have one, would be considered a glyph, called a glyph, okay? And so if I go here, if I just search glyph, and I go, so glyph means shape, but we in typography, it refers specifically to any of the characters, okay? And so if I'm making a character set for a font, if I'm designing a font, and this is one of the things that people noted, people were like, wow, 46 bucks for a font. I could probably go and get it way cheaper and find one that looks really similar. There's actually a ton of work that goes into creating an entire glyph set, right? There's a lot of design here. And, that's, think you guys worked in Illustrator. Look at the variations within a typeface just for a couple of letters, right? So keep in mind, there's a lot there, right? So that's called a glyph. And a glyph, look up that definition if you need to, but it basically is a symbol in your typeface, okay? The other one I want to mention, the other term that you should know, is a ligature in typography. And a ligature is two letters that get too close to each other, interact with each other, and the type designer will deal with that in an interesting way. So I'm going to open up a word. So here's the letter F, okay, and F has this sort of ascender that curves up like this. And say the next letter is I. Now I've left a space here because if I didn't, here's what would happen. I'm going to type F-I, and I'm not sure if you saw that, but notice that as soon as I type that I, the F actually changes. Okay, what's happening there is instead of typing F and I, it's actually typing a separate ligature glyph, which is designed so that this is not distracting. If I had the F and the I closer together, then that what's called the dot on the I would interfere with the ascender from the F. Okay, and there's a bunch of these. FL is another example, okay, and you saw that the L interferes, so that's a designed word in the word flush. That would just be designed that way. FFL, like the word waffle, okay? And that gets designed by a designer so that this character gets included in the character set so that, it doesn't look messy. And this, if you notice, this F is different than this F. It actually has been, so if I write an F here, notice where this bar ends. It ends here, but in this case, it continues right across all the way to the L, and it connects to the L. Okay, so there's a couple things happening here, and there's a bunch of these. I think AE is one of them. No, I think I've turned that one on, but there's a bunch. Anyway, you get there's a bunch, right? FFI, that's another one. Whatever. Okay, and those are called ligatures. Ligature. Didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but you get the idea. Okay. Still didn't work out. Ligature. There. Sweet. Okay, good. Let's get rid of that. All right, let's move on. So I mentioned that typography, there's a lot to it. And you don't need to do this, but I thought I would just show you that there's a website called Font Struct. And in the Font Struct website, you can find the Font Structor, and you can create, using the tools in this Font Structor, a free font. And so what you get is a grid, and you get different bricks, and then you can use the bricks to draw your font. And depending on how you want it to look, you may choose different blocks to fill in the shape of the letter that you want. So if I want this to look like this, I can choose the blocks I want. So I want this guy here, and I can create shapes using all these blocks. There's a whole bunch of them down here, right? And so depending on what you're trying to do with your letter, um, you have different options. Anyways, I did the letter A, and it took me like, to get it right, it probably took me about an hour just to get this done. And the way I did it was I drew out a rough shape. Oops. I drew out a rough shape with this. And I went to the line tool, and I went, all right, my A is going to look something like this. And then I went in with the blocks, and I started filling it in until I was happy with it. And it took a lot of time. I'm not sure why this is not working for me right now. There. It took a lot of time, and getting the angles was a bit of a headache as well. So like when I got in here, I had to go and select, where are they? There's these like little angles, these guys here. Notice that this is in the center of a block, so I want one that's here, right? And so, anyways, it was a lot of work to get it right. Here, whatever. You get the point. I'm gonna move on. Anyways, this took like an hour to do this, and that was just one letter. I started doing B, and this is how far I got before I got frustrated, and I'm like, forget it. This is insane. It's a ton of work, and this is not, this is not an overly complicated font. So just recognize there's a lot to it. I also found, you can try this if you want to, check it out, but you don't have to. There's also a website called BirdFont, and they've got a software that looks like this. And then it's a similar kind of deal, except it's a little closer to Illustrator. Now, to do this, it's a open source, which means it is quote unquote free. You can go and download it, and they ask for a donation, but you don't have to. You can just say no, I don't want to give anything, and just try it out. But you can install this and check it out. It's and then what happens is you just pick the clip that you want. If I'm doing, this is the exclamation mark, so I don't know, my exclamation mark is going to look like, this is going to be the worst exclamation mark ever, or the most boring at least, but oops, maybe. I think I might suck at this. Anyways, hey look, you recognize this? This is probably something that you've seen. I don't know how to do this very well, as you can see. There we go. There's my exclamation mark. So now I'll go back to my overview and check it out. I did that, right? Now that is a very straightforward font, but this is a tool that you go and make your entire clip set with, okay? All right, anyways, there's that, and there's this guy. You can try those if you feel like it. That was it. I don't need to show you anything else. There's no activity or assignment for this. The two things that you should remember are the word glyph and ligature. And that's it for this week. I'm not going to give you any other tutorials or any other posts this week. It's the first week. I know people are trying to stay on top of all their lessons, and there's probably a lot coming at you from various teachers. I'm not sure how well all the other teachers are managing this, so who knows how organized you are. I figured that this is about 3 hours. Let me know how I'm doing in the comments. But that's it for this week, and I'll hopefully have some new stuff for you guys on next Monday. And I'll spend the weekend coming up with new activities and things to keep you busy. All right, guys, take it easy. Talk to you soon.